Alrighty, welcome back. Here we go. Grade crossing part 3. So I'm just starting off here. What I did was I kind of got the gates to be exactly where I want them, so the control rod is exactly where I need it to be when they're in the down position. You can see I have those relatively horizontal, close enough. That one has a stop, so it's kind of sitting pretty good, and the one over there is sitting pretty good as well. So we're delving into the instructions here, and basically what it tells you to do, the first thing you do, you assemble the bell cranks, get them horizontal, you go underneath, you set them, you bring the control rod over the appropriate hole that you figure out based on the throw that you need to go from, full down to full up, what that travel is. And mine are just about 3/16, 188 or so. And now there is some adjustability, I think, later on, so I don't think it's super critical. But we're going to take this underneath, hold it up, line it up, mark the, bring the control rod right over the appropriate hole, which in this case is number 4, number from the pivot out. Mark the control wire right at the hole, mark the mounting screws, take it off, and then continue on. So that's the first thing I need to do, obviously for all 4 of them. Let's get the bell cranks measured, get the control rods measured, and then move on to the next step, which basically involves cutting wires and I think drilling out holes and moving ahead. So we're going to start off with that, and hopefully I'm not in the insane asylum by the time this is over. Alright, this may be a little kludgy trying to show stuff under the layout, but alright, there's no way I could hold and mark everything per the instructions. So what I did was I actually drilled one hole, marked the other. I have the bell crank assemblies sitting there, all 4 of them. I got them in, held in with one screw, and then I marked again, there's no way a Sharpie's going to work on that dark wire, so I actually got a little bit of flat white paint, a micro brush with the tip ripped off, and I just came in and marked the wire with a little touch of white. I'm not sure it's even going to show up in the video, right on top of the hole that was selected. Yeah, it might not even show up, but anyway, it's marked. Alright, so now I gotta allegedly take the bell crank out, bend the wire, and continue on. Just one recommendation, especially when you're doing work under the layout, if you haven't done so, magnetize your screwdrivers. Run them over a magnet so that you can pick up hardware for you. Makes it a lot easier when you're trying to find hardware. There it is. And then when you're going up underneath, it'll stay on the screwdriver when you're trying to put things in holes when they're freaking up under the layout like that, which is I hate working under here. And of course, there's always issues like this board's now in my way and I gotta scooch around underneath stuff, and I really hate being under here. But all right, enough complaining. Let's keep moving ahead here. All right, a little bit of work going on here just to kind of show I made a mistake on something, so I gotta fix that. But I took the bell crank pieces back off and drilled out the hole here and the hole here, because reading ahead they mentioned that for the actuating wire that comes from the base clamp, you may need to drill it out, and I did. So I have I have 2 pedestrian gates, 2 crossing gates. So for the crossing gates I drilled a 78, for the pedestrian a 74. So that's this hole here. The hole up here to clear the actuating stainless steel wire was also, and it was a number 78. All right, so that's done. I have all the tubes out. I have the stainless steel wires in them, just to make sure that everything fit okay, everything looks good. I have a couple little pieces of stainless tubing cut out for when I run through the bench work, and I did make an assembly. Where did I put it? Oh, I have it down below. What I did, again, because like I said, I am definitely mechanically challenged, so I have a duplicate set of basically all this stuff here. So what I did was actually assembled what it looks like. I have a hard time visualizing things, so I just had to assemble it, so I did. Now that little wire sticking out is going to be my guide. And when you place this, you want to try to place them as close as possible. So for example, put that in like that, and if you can see that wire, that's going to go right into the slot on the bell crank piece there. So I can put it nice and close like that. And it's going to move a little bit because it's off level. But apparently this Tygon tube and then stainless steel is okay to move a little bit. Because if I mount like this, it's not going to be a straight shot right across to the bell crank assembly. And on the other side, I had the bell cranks backwards basically. I can show this any better underneath the layout. But basically you want to bring your actuating wire in like this, and then this goes to the signal wire. Well, I had it coming in, the actuating wire coming in like this, so it kind of would have crossed that. So I'd have to take these and flip them. No big deal. I just got to flip them around, re-drill the holes, and mount them, because otherwise it just would have been pretty kludgy. So I'm going to fix that, and then keep moving ahead. Alright, I'm not sure I can show this real well because of wires or anything, but this before was on that side, and I think basically the rule is again, so here's where I'm going to put my drive. So you want the bell crank assembly to be on the drive side of your control wire. That way you're not running through it. See, if I left it like that, I would have brought the actuating wire like across the control wire over to the bell crank, which I don't think would have been it might have worked, but I don't think it would have been too fun. See, and those are already that way because they're on the drive. The drive's coming from this side. The drive's going to be over here. So they're on the drive side. So those I put in right. These two I had it incorrect. Where is it? It's dark, and I had to move them. All right, so that's done. All right, so let's take a quick break, and we'll be back. The instructions actually do show you what I just said about the bell crank, or they actually call the actuator assembly, being located to the drive side. They show the drive wire coming in. There's a signal wire. So they show it that way. They don't specifically say mount that to the drive side of the wire, but they show it that way. So it's kind of implied. So I guess, again, you got to look at these instructions and think about it a little bit. They don't specifically say that in here. They just say mount it, using the two screws. Well, okay, but if you try to bring your drive wire in this way, I don't think it would even work, because you got to, well, it may, but you got to, no, it wouldn't, because you got to catch here and clamp it here. So if you tried to come in from this side, it wouldn't work. There'd be nothing to clamp it to the actuator plate. So they do show it. I put a note down to myself if I ever do another one. But just FYI, when you're mounting this, mount this so it's to the drive side. I can't say right or left. Try to say right because that's the way it looks, but to the drive side of your signal wire. Okay, here we are. I'm still alive. I'm not running around outside screaming just yet. Pretty much what I've done. Just looking here at the instructions. Let's see, I did all this stuff. I got the bell cranks ready. I got the wire ready. And then it came to the part where you set up. Basically, you're going to measure your Teflon tube length. And what they tell you to do here, is keep it straight as possible, least amount of bends, and it all makes sense. I totally understand that. And in this case, it's not too bad because we're going to be, the drive is here. It's a real close shot over to this gate, and not too much farther to go to that gate. The issue we have is this. I don't recommend you go through something. Again, I didn't plan ahead, and I put this road crossing right on top of this. I would really recommend, you've got nothing in the way, put the road here so you can drive both gates without having to go through something. Anyway, I got it. I think it's going to work okay. The one thing here in the instructions, to be honest, I do not understand. And again, I told you guys I'm not real mechanical. So this is after finding the best location. Basically, they tell you to tape the Teflon in the actuator where it's going to be. and then run the Teflon over, and you mount this temporarily underneath the layout where you want to put it, and then you run the Teflon over and you lay it in the groove on the base plate clamp in there. Got it. Now they tell you to bring it in and mark it halfway in. I'm not really sure why. And then they tell you to cut it 2 inches longer than that. And I'm not even looking at the, see, I'm not even doing this right. So again, they tell you to bring it into here. This is the clamp. I know it might be hard to see, but it's halfway in the clamp. What you want it to be, if I'm reading the instructions right, you want the Teflon tube to come in just out this side on the actuator, on the bell crank arm clamp, and just out this side facing the slide. Here's a slide on the base. So they have you mark it, the Teflon tube, halfway into this, and then cut it 2 inches longer. And to me, that just makes no sense, because if I cut that Teflon tube 2 inches longer, and I go to assemble everything, and that Teflon tube is too long, and you've got the wire, your stainless steel wire on it, you're not going to cut that Teflon tube. So I must be missing something. So what I did was just like this. Again, I put everything together, put the Teflon tube in, the wire, I did the bend here, made the Z bend, everything cool. Put this back under the layout where it's going to be. So for example, I put it right under here where it's going to sit. I ran everything, the Teflon and the stainless steel wire, over to the base, which I have. You probably won't be able to see it, but I don't even know I'm going to be able to show that, but they're right there. Okay, I mounted them, temporarily. I put it under there. And I brought this Teflon tube right to the outside edge. Marked it and cut it, because the Teflon tube doesn't move. These are set, right? You got mounting screws for that, mounting screws for that, so that distance is not going to change. I ran the Teflon through. I have it set correctly on this side. I brought it through and just past this, maybe just a wee little bit, marked it and then cut it. So mine are set up to be, the right line. I don't understand why they're telling you to cut it 2 inches longer. But again, that could be me. I'm not mechanically inclined. So it could be something I just do not understand. But I was able, and maybe that's because they give you that extra in case you need to have some flexibility in your Teflon tube. But I had them all pretty much measured. I mean, luckily I do have pretty straight runs. And like I said, this actuator mounts right here, screwed in. The base plate screwed in. That distance won't change. That Teflon tube length doesn't change. It doesn't move. It's the steel wire that moves. So I just measured and cut it. And we'll see, unless something's going to bite me in the rear end later on. So then you follow through the instructions, and it tells you to basically do all this, get it back together, put the clamp on it, bring it back on. Now the next step here is to bring it back under the layout, and then mount it, and then bring your signal wire through. So all the signal wires, all 4 of them, they have been bent to 90 degrees, so they're ready to go back into the bell cranks. So my next step is to bring these under, slide the actuating wires through, hopefully everything fits right, and then mount these, screw them up with both screws, and then run these over to the base clamps. And then you get into assembling the base clamp, which I already did here, so I kind of know what to do, and then getting that in. So, okay. Pause here. I'm hoping this is making some sense. But basically you set this up, you mount this back under temporarily, you measure your length of your Teflon tube over to your base mechanism, because that comes through from this clamp to the base clamp here. That length is set. You cut it. You do leave the steel wire longer. I understand that. That's going to lay over the clamp here in the slide, and then be cut to fit at assembly when it's clamped in. I get that. While the Teflon, they want it longer, I don't understand. But all right, so we got this set up. We got the Teflon cut. We got everything working well. These do fit. The Teflon tube are in. The steel wire does move the bell cranks. Nothing's binding up. So far, so good. So the next thing is mount these bad boys underneath. Assemble the base plates. Get them mounted. bring these over, get the Teflon tube in, and hook everything up. And then go on a wing and a prayer and hope it all works. So, all right, more to come as we progress here. All right, one step, got everything assembled here. Actually, I have 2 of the final ones done now. And they recommend you test it under power. So, using my handy-dandy 12-volt power supply, much to the chagrin of some people. What I'm going to do is just put 12 volts on it and see if it works. So, this should go the other way because I actually had it the other direction before. There we go. Alright, so that's the movement. If I want to reverse it, I got to reverse polarity, which is a little cumbersome to do with leads like this. But, so now, this should go back to the other position. Alright, there we go. Good to go. So, we'll probably going to stop here for tonight. The next thing to do is to mount those bell cranks and move forward ahead. So, but it's after 7 o'clock. I need a beer. I probably worked about 8 hours so far today, in and out, amongst running the kids around and that kind of stuff. So, all right, so we'll continue on and hopefully get this wrapped up soon. But the next thing is to mount everything underneath and start hooking the actual Teflon and the stainless steel wires up to everything. So more to come soon. Okay, we're back, and we have all of the bell crank assemblies are now installed, and the wires from the gates are attached. Everything does work. They're run over to the drive mechanism, which are both installed. Now the fun part is going to be to place the Teflon tube, stainless steel wire, into the grooves on the base clamp and slide on the drive unit base. And I have 2. I have to do 2 sets of Teflon, 2 stainless steel wires into 4 different grooves, all while sitting on the floor, reaching up over my head and trying to put the clamp, the clamp blocks on, and not have things fall out, drop out, lose hardware, lose my mind, etc., etc. So, but we're getting close. We really are getting pretty darn close. So, as I said, the gates are set at the midpoint of the travel, I think. The tortoises are set at the midpoint. And now it's a matter just of getting everything hooked up to the base clamp. I'm probably going to go ahead before I start and actually wire these into the terminal blocks just so they're out of the way. I don't need wires poking me in the head when I'm down there. So, we'll come back in a little while if we actually get this accomplished. Alright, I actually crawled under there and got everything connected. All the cables I run to the base clamps. Everything's in, and I'll show you how it works. I did test it. I have my handy 12-volt power supply. I'm telling you, that's very handy. I'm glad I did that. I could turn the layout on, but this is I just plug it in and away I go. All right, so right here I have a little test setup. I temporarily I disconnected the 12 volts from the PGCC board just to have that, just in case. I don't know if I backfed it, if anything bad, I don't think anything would happen, but just in case. So I brought the leads for the tortoises out, and now they're hooked up, both together. So if I take, and right now obviously the gates are up, so if I go flip it over, and what I'll do is I'll attach this, and the gate should magically go down. Now watch this gate here. It's a little interesting what it does. I think it's okay though. I've seen gates do some things like that in the real world, so you can tell me what you think. All right, here we go. See how it's got that little delay for some reason? I think the control wire for this one is maybe a little tight with the wires coming down for the LEDs. It all works, but it has that little bit of slow motion there at the end, which I kind of like. I don't know. Now, this is way too fast, because I'm testing at 12 volts. On the PGCC card, you could adjust that, so it'll be a lot slower. Because then I'll go ahead and bring everything up. See See, that's way too fast. But damn, they all go up and they all go down. So let's. I'm excited. So let's bring them down one more time. Okay, here we go. Imagine trains coming. Woo woo. And just that one there has got that little bit of a lag to it, but okay. So that is that. So now what I need to do is, since everything is wired up, what I'll do is actually get power to the layout, probably turn the computer on, or maybe just power the. I got to read, to be honest, on the PGCC card. See, if I can adjust it. You know, make it trigger without the layout on. Otherwise, I got to run a train in and out of the blocks, and that could be just kind of a pain. I'm just trying to get, you know, I think what we'll do is we'll have the lights go on first, a little bit of a delay. The gates come down much slower. Bell will go off. When the gates are down, the bell will stop. Then obviously things will flash, and then the train clears the island. Gates will come back up, and then the lights will go off. That's what I'd like to do, and we'll see how it works when the PGCC card itself is driving two tortoises, because it's not normally set up to do that. But I think I don't think I'm going to overcapacity the current rating of it, and we'll see what happens when I try it. So, all right, you know what? Just for fun, let's do it one more time. Come on, don't you love it? All right, here we go. I'm kind of liking that little bit of a delay there. I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. And maybe it'll change when it comes down slower. I don't know. Boom. Nice and snappy up there, right? So, okay. So there we go. So far, I guess I'd call that a success. Now we just got to get things worked up and get the PGCC card programmed and set the way I want it, and run some trains and see how they look going through the crossing with the bells and lights and everything going on. So, all right, more to come shortly. All right, I figured I'd try to show this quick. This is what you have to do to connect it to the drive assembly. Again, you got to bring your in our case, two Teflon tubes with the steel wires over. Get them into this base clamp in the grooves while hanging upside down on the layout. Trying to get two small little Teflon tubes into two grooves while trying to get a clamp cover on with a screwdriver and a screw in it. So yeah, it's fun, I'll tell you what. But I got it in there, and then these are the stainless steel wires that run up. Same thing, they're in two grooves here with another cover on it. Has to be screwed in, so whew, that was a challenge, but made it eventually. I just took my time, went slow, got frustrated, took a break, came back, took a deep breath, got it done. So so that they're in there, and you can see, you know, they run over from here over, and then from this side, which will probably be way too dark, but from, I can't even see under here. It's hard to move the camera. Yeah, never mind, too dark. Anyway, this is the one that runs from the other side into the base clamp. So, all right, so that's the fun that you get when you do this on a real layout. Okay, did a little bit of setting up here. I have a little test circuit where basically all I did was bring the activate input from the PGCC card out to here so I can ground it. This is ground, this is the activate. So when I activate it, it'll turn the gates on. That way I'm not worried about, the layout's turned on. And so I got 12 volts to the card, and I brought a speaker. Now I'm not going to use that speaker. That's actually another speaker I plan to use for background sounds. I have a smaller one somewhere that I also put in a box, but I'll be darned if I can find it now. But anyway, so what it does, I did kind of set things up for flash of brightness, for the delay from to the gate start to the bell sound stopping when the gates are down. So let's see what we get here. A little bit of a delay. Gates go down. And this one's a little bit slower, but I'm okay with that. So see, then the bell stops. Now these will keep flashing because I have it grounded, so it's going to flash forever now. So if I just unground it, Everything comes up, and then the lights go off. So that's that. So, not bad. Might need some tweaking here and there, but overall, I'm pretty happy with it. Like I said, I set the motor speed. As you can see, it runs a little bit slower. For some reason, if I went real slow, this gate had a hard time going down. So I think, like I said, I think there's something binding inside there, but I'm not going to rip it all out because Lord knows I don't want to do that. And I did have a major scare when I first turned it on. These flashers worked. Those flashers didn't. Like, oh, you got to be kidding me. All this work and, all the work that was done to the gates to get them the way they are. I mean, I could have taken that gate back out, bought a new one, put it back in. All you got to do is really pull the control wire out of the actuator down below. It would have been relatively simple, but there's a lot of work on the gate. Turns out, through some investigation, what I did was I brought the LED wires from here over to this one, disconnected this one because I knew this one was working, ran it through, and those LEDs worked. So there's something in that little jumper board I made underneath. So I reconnected things underneath there, and now, thankfully, they work. Because, good Lord, the last thing I wanted was to have to go through and take this gate out, redo a new gate, put it back in again when I just did all this work. So let's let it go one more time, just for fun. It's kind of interesting how this one is so much slower. I'm not really sure why, because this drives about the same speed, and then coming up, they all seem about the same there, roughly. Yeah, I think this is binding inside there, that's why. I don't really find it that objectionable. I've seen some wacky stuff happen with gates in the real world, so I'm probably just going to leave it alone. Lights off. Okay, not too shabby, eh? Like I said, now what I might try, since the layout's on, I want to see how the program's working. I think I have a glitch in the program. For one of the directions, it doesn't turn off. It doesn't shut the circuit off after it clears the island. I think it's for a westbound train. There's something I got to look at in the programming. I might not wait to get this update. That's something I can work on later. I might try to bring one through and make sure everything works okay, just to verify things. But anything from now on is just a programming issue that I can deal with, later. But at least for now, let's just do it one more time, shall we? Whew, okay. Like I said, I can adjust things, the gate speeds later if I want to. I don't know what I can do to try to improve the operation of that one. It's pretty much the way it is, but because they all go up at about the same speed, really pretty darn close. Yeah, all right. Okay, so there we go. Things are working. I got to find my other speaker. I don't want this big one. I had a smaller one in a box, all set up, ready to go. So that's for the crossing when I get it done. Now I got to I cleaned up and I can't find it. All right, real quick. Here's just one of the quick little note. Here's one of the interesting tidbits when you do have CMRI, but you don't have the program running. In my case, I run VB6. The output states from the S-minis are kind of random. So as you can see, what happened was when I reattached the activate back into the board, the output from the S-mini is telling it that it's grounded. That's why the gates went down. Now there's no train here, so they shouldn't be that way. That's also kind of why you get the signals. They are kind of funky because the outputs are all kind of random. So what I'll do is once I start the program, this will reset to its normal state because everything starts to work okay. So that's one of the issues that I might have to do, or one of the things I may want to do is bring the activate just out to a simple toggle switch so that I can turn it, for computer on or computer off. Basically, if computer off, just open it up so it can't do something like this. if the computer's on, go ahead and reconnect it so it goes back and gets this command from the S Mini. Just to think about. It's interesting. It almost means that if you want to have CMRI, you have to have the program running all the time, or your signals, your crossings, things that are connected to your outputs can do wacky things. So let's turn the program on, and hopefully these gates will go back up. All right, there we go. Like I said, once I turn the program on, things return to normal. For example, those signals up there now on the signal bridge went off because they're approach lit. So, like I said, that's just one little interesting tidbit when you run CMRI. So something to think about if you're going to entertain that for your layout. Alrighty, do a real quick segment here on the operation of the grade crossing with the computer program running and a train coming in and triggering it the way it would be. And the way this is set up is normally would have had a block from that signal that's over there all the way around to this intermediate. But since I have a crossing, the block here way too close to trigger that crossing. So we added another gap here, so there's like another approach block to the crossing. So when the train goes across this gap, it should trigger the crossing to operate. And then similar coming the other way. Although I think I have an issue with trains running, which is kind of westbound, that the crossing should go up or deactivate once the last car clears the island. But I noticed that coming westbound, they don't actually deactivate the crossing until it gets here. And I'm not sure why. It's a programming thing. It's nothing to do with the crossing itself. Something I got to look at in the program. Probably something I did wrong, something simple. Anyway, and then another thing that I'll show you, again, for any current detection system that you're using, not just CMRI, it'd be anything. If all the cars are not detected, you don't have resistance wheel sets in them, which none of these do, and I picked this on purpose. I'll show you what happens when it goes across the crossing and the locomotive, which is always detected, clears the island. You'll see what's going to happen. I think you can figure it out because none of these are detected. So to the computer, these cars are invisible. All right, so our host today is BLE907. Say hello there, 907. He's not saying hello. There we go. He was a little shy. All right, so we'll run them across. Gate should activate. I'm going to bring it across and stop once the locomotive clears the island. And I think what's going to happen should happen. And it's one of the little nuances of the system. Any current detected system. Let me just whoop. Gonna do that. All right, so crank this guy up way back there. Come on, buddy. Here we go. Okay. Activates the crossing. Gates go down. Uh-oh, dirty track. Here he comes. Because I did a lot of scenery work, so I really ought to go in there and clean the track pretty good. So he comes up to the crossing. And he stalls. I say the crossing is probably still dirty from the work I did on it. So, all right, I get the hint. I got to clean the crossing. All right, now he's going to clear the island, and I'm going to stop him. Okay, because the island stops right here. So see, that's what happens because it thinks the train cleared, and obviously it didn't. So in this case, poor little Steve-O and his Mustang would just go driving right into it. Ah! Oh, the gates went up. So that's just one thing to consider when you have current detected systems. These cars all have to be, because they're invisible. The computer thinks this block is clear, and that block's occupied, but I'm out of the island. So just something to consider when you're doing this type of system. Now, an IR system or an optical system, you probably wouldn't have this problem, because I think on those systems, I'm no expert, but I think there's a sensor right about here, so it still would think the crossing's blocked. Although there are other nuances to those systems as well, in terms of ambient light, if you're using optical, and where the sensors are, if you're using IR and optical. So just something to consider. Now, if this works correctly, when I bring him back, once he gets into the island, okay, so that does work. So he came back across into the island. And basically, whenever the island's occupied, the gates go down. So he should. See, I got to clean the track. So I'm going to run in fast. See? All right. I'll clean the track. Move. All right, then I'll clear the island there on that side. Now, it might stay down because he's in the approach block. So let's just see what happens, just for the heck of it. If I crank him up. A little unprototypical there, but I'm going to run him out so he's all the way out of the approach block to the crossing, which is down around that hill a little bit. Alright, somewhere about now he should. Alright, he cleared that block. There they go. Okay. So he clears the block and now they go back. So that's just something to consider. I want to just kind of show that, because there's always, any system you use, whether it's current detection, optical IR, there's going to be slight nuances to it, and that's one of the nuances you get with the CMRI, which is current detection. So, alrighty, that was that. Okay, sorry, one more real brief segment. You notice he's sitting right there, and the gates are up. That's because I built a timer in, and again, here's the island, so I stopped him short of the island, and actually, as soon as he triggers the crossing back here, I have a timer start. And you got to set that, based on the speed of your trains and stuff, because if it's too short, the gates will go up before it gets there. I think I have it set about 45 seconds. So again, that way, if no train triggers the island within 45 seconds, the gates go back up, which is what happened here. I didn't show you that because it's a long time to sit there and watch nothing happen. But so I brought them up, stopped them, and then sure enough, after 45 seconds, the gates go up. And then if things are correct, if I move him forward, again, right there is the island. So we'll say conductor's got to flag the crossing, but he'll come up real slow. And then as soon as he gets into the island, now, I know the track's dirty, so I'm not going to put you guys through the embarrassment of watching my dirty track. But, so that's that. So another thing, you can build time delays into this, and it's kind of neat. There's a lot you can do with the CMRI in terms of programming different things, like that time delay. I think other crossings have them as well, but other systems have them. But I don't know if they're a set time, a 30-second time or something like that. I'm not sure. Maybe you can set those as well with somehow on the chip. I'm not sure. But with Visual Basic, I just program it. I just say I want 45 seconds or a minute or 5 seconds or whatever. So a little flexibility there. So, all right, just one more thing you can do with the CMRI and the PGCC card. Okay, last segment, I promise, but I just keep thinking of little nuances. Okay, so in this case, I brought him past the crossing. The gates go up because the locomotive cleared the island. Now, if I bring him back, it's not going to trigger the siding because, let's say, these cars aren't detected. So they'll come across the island, but since I don't have resistance wheel sets, the computer thinks, again, it's blind to it. So until the locomotive, in this case, does it, it's going to go right across the crossing. Oh, what the heck. Let's have some fun. Let's see, which way do I got this guy going now? Wrong way. All right, turn around, 907. Okay. See, now he's going to come back, and here we come, and, here comes little Stevie and his Mustang, and gates aren't down, the gates aren't down. Ah! See? I think, oh, that's not good. That's not good, folks. Now, again, once the locomotive... Now, the track's dirty, so I'm going to crank him through it. See? Woo! Dirty track, dirty track. So that's another thing to consider. Again, if you don't have resistance wheel sets, just all these little nuances. I promise. That's the last one. I'll stop right now. That's it. Done. Fini. And we'll get this up so we can have our update posted on the grade crossing stuff. But things to consider when you have different systems and how they operate and interact with the layout, detection, cars, locomotives that are detected, not detected. Just things to think about. All right, so that'll wrap this up. I'll go ahead and it's got longer than I thought, as usual. Get it posted. Looks like, I'd say things are working okay. A little bit of tweaking to do, probably with the program. I did run a train going that way, and sure enough, it didn't turn off until I hit the other block. So that's something I have to look at in the program. That's nothing to do with the crossing or the PGCC card or mechanical linkages or anything. That's something programming wise I got to fix and maybe do some tweaks to the crossing over time. Still needs a lot more weathering and work, and again, now we can start working on some other scenery to get this kind of area worked up. So alright, we're going to go ahead and close it here. I see, for some reason, that looks like Steve's Mustang. He pulled over there. That's probably illegal to be sitting there, but he must have heard something on the scanner, so I'm not sure what's going on, but let's check it out.